It's Champions League quarter-final time with Europe's heaviest hitters facing off on Tuesday and Wednesday night this week. Our panel of betting experts will run their rule over all four matches to find out where the betting value is and is not. With so few matches, we're replacing the pod treble with another in-depth look at one of the most intriguing bookmaker lines this week. And after ignoring calls for a rematch, Daniele will be defending his title against another challenger. All that and more on today's show. Hello and welcome to the Football Betting Pod, powered by Betting Expert. I'm your host, Daniel Jenkins, joined as ever by Betting Expert's football editor, Sam Ingram. How are you doing, Sam?
Hello, Dan. Really nice to have you back hosting this week. It is a tough gig and it's not one I really enjoy, so thank you for returning. How was your time off?
It was good, mate. It was good. You didn't enjoy your stint in the hosting chair?
It's just like you need to be on your toes for like an hour or so. Whereas usually I just zone out, wait for you to say my name, and then I jump back in. But you have to be kind of, you have to stitch it all together. So yeah, not my thing. I don't think.
I think it's done well. It's done really
well. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because there was nobody just slagging off the bets after we posted them, which is Dan likes to push back. It was quite relaxed. I know he's making us go toe to toe again on these things, so Dan loves confrontation. That's what
it's the first one back. I got to crack the whip. I got to get you guys fighting. If you don't fight, then I'll probably be fighting someone called DGZ who commented almost straight away after the podcast was launched just how much they enjoyed it. So I'm not sure if that was just because I wasn't on it. Or if people Sam's doing an account, maybe.
The people want you off the pod, mate. I think that's that's the takeaway. I think.
We'll see. Maybe in there joining us again, Scott Thornton. How are we doing, man?
Yeah, it's the best time of the year, and the weather's getting better. The Champions League football is at the heavy hitting stage, as you said. It's exciting times, and I'm really looking forward to the games, and I'm looking forward to watching them when it's not completely dark outside.
Even better. And completing the quartet, Daniele and Scott. How you doing, man?
Hello, all good, thank you. Looking forward to this midweek football.
Yes, big week. As I said at the start, so we'll be having another head-to-head face-off debate. Need a better name for them. I'm trying brainstorming some suggestions, but if anybody has any sort of ideas, I'm thinking some sort of Hell in the Cell variant, but I don't know. Asian handicap face-off doesn't really have the same ring to it. So we'll get to that at the end, but we will be covering all four matches. But I'd say with so few matches, I think we should probably dig into them a little bit deeper and try and solve the problem of where to find betting value when there are so few games to choose from. So we'll start off with a match that's close to Daniele Fiscala's heart, which is going to be Bayern versus Inter. Big one for your team.
Yes, a big one. And reminiscence of the last Champions League victory for Inter, of course, against Bayern Munich in 2010. And Inter, funnily enough, going for a treble again this season, as they did under Mourinho, but hit a bump in the road, 2-2 at Parma, bit sluggish in the second half. It is an Inter side that still dominating domestically, but they seem to almost decrease the concentration in the second half and allow some goals. And actually, as a matter of fact, the last large victory away from home is dated 29th of January when they trashed Lecce. But for this one at Bayern, many consider Inter having a golden opportunities, considering that not only they've only conceded 2 goals so far in the Champions League, and of course such a mean defense could win you ultimately the tie, if not the title, but also the fact that Bayern Munich are plagued by absentees, notably Jamal Musiala, third most creative player in the competition, who picked up an injury against Augsburg. He's not missed not just one but 2 legs of these quarterfinals, also missing Alphonso Davies, Guerreiro, Ito. Kane is a doubt, but I think we will make it. Neuer could make a miraculous return for the second leg. So the question is it now or never for Inter? Is this a golden opportunity? You go to the Bayern Arena, where Bayern haven't lost since 2021 against PSG, so it's an incredible stretch, I think over 25 games without defeat, and win it. Well, Inter in the Champions League have been smart, have been well drilled, but away from home, their goals tally has not been exceptional. Actually, of course, they do average 1.32 expected goal away from home, but look against opponents of the same caliber as Bayern. 0.76 against Manchester City, 0.32 against Leverkusen in a game that Inter pretty much surrendered the ball for the entire 90 minutes. I'm not going to expect that for Inter to do the same. You would hope it is a lesson learned, but ultimately backing the under 2.5 goals here to me seems the most logical outcome. It is priced very high, the under 2.5 goals, 191, because Bayern got the best expected goals in the competition. But again, that's because of the league group games and those 9-2 against Dinamo Zagreb and high scoring sides. If you look, for example, at the game they played against Celtic at Bayern, they didn't really create that much. But I think they're gonna still dominate. I can understand why they are favorites. I do stick with the under 2.5 goals though, which is 191.
Yeah, Betsy projected goal line or goal total for this match comes in at 2.99 with 1.82 projected for Bayern Munich, 1.18 projected for Inter. Looking at the qualification percentages, Betsy's given Bayern a 60.6% chance of qualifying, with Inter down at 39.4%. So, bit of a pick'em with Betsy, quite tight there. But looking at the bet, Daniele, you mentioned the injury problems. You mentioned Jamal Musiala being out for Bayern. You mentioned Harry Kane maybe not being fully fit and rushing himself back for a Champions League game. We've seen this before, haven't we, with Harry Kane? He comes back when he's not fully fit and kind of a little bit anonymous in matches. It can be, especially at this stage of the season. But it's still Bayern.
Yes.
And as you said, Inter so good defensively, but could there be a bit of a slither of an opportunity here for them, given the injury problems? Some of these players could be coming back next week. Is there a chance they maybe open up a little bit?
There could be, but Inter needs to be brave and needs to try to keep the possession in Bayern's half and not just try playing the counter or with long balls. And that's where Inter will have to test themselves. They don't have a lot of players who take on other players. Actually, they are penultimate for dribbles completed, attempted in the Champions League, and they are missing the only real dribbler they have in the team, which is Denzel Dumfries, who, by the way, is going to miss both legs. So the strategy for Inter will be to try to camp in Bayern half, try to keep the ball there and create the spaces. But Bayern we know that they press you very, very high. So the first phase of possession for Inter is going to be so crucial. Whereas, of course, Bayern have got the best weapons on the wings with Sané and with Olise. They're going to be taking on Inter's fullback. So it's going to be a fascinating one, but I would expect Bayern to almost dominate. I mean, if you look at Bayern starting 11, they're all team players who play with the national side. So yes, it is slightly weakened, but not as weak as you would imagine. Of course, having Musiala away, it's an advantage. But when it comes to the goals line and the goals total, Betsy projects 12.18 goals to be scored in the first leg of the quarterfinals. That would be an average of 3.404, slightly lower than the competition average, 3.22. However, Betsy projected every single one of the four first leg ties and also the second leg ties are going to go over 2.5 goals. And actually, the lowest projected tally is 281 for PSG against Aston Villa. Now, last season, there were 18 goals scored only in the first legs of the quarterfinals. There was that amazing 3-3 against between Real Madrid and Manchester City. But if you look back at the previous two campaigns, the goals were much less. 8 in 22-23 and 10 in 21-22. So maybe that makes you think, was it last season an outlier, actually? And when it comes to this stage, there are some games that are going to end up 1-1, 1-0, 2-0, etc. So it's about trying to spot those unders that I think they're going to be. I don't believe every single game is going to go over 2.5 goals or it's going to be both into score. That's why, but in terms of qualification side, I try always to figure it out this way. If it's a high scoring game, who's got more chances to go through? Bayern. If it's a low scoring game, who's got more chances to go through? Inter, for what we've seen so far. I think it's going to be a low scoring game, giving Inter perhaps more than the chances that are projected. And this one, if they manage to keep it alive, if they manage to keep it no more than 2 goals in it, then they can have a chance at the result.
Yeah, very, very interesting game set up there in Germany. Daniele's first bet is under 2.5 goals in Bayern versus Inter. That's a 1.91. Let's move on to another match involving a German side, Barca versus Borussia Dortmund. Sam, do you want to kick us off, Lady Foundations? Because Scott's got a bet for this one as well, but I think yours will speak a little bit more to generally set up the match.
Yeah, if we stay on the theme of goal lines, this is a 3.25 Asian goal line in Barcelona, which is quite big for first leg of a quarterfinal. But if you look at and analyse the previous head-to-head in the league phase of the Champions League this season, Dortmund had a bit of joy against Barcelona's high line. They registered 2.73 expected goals, with Barca hitting 2.04 expected goals. This was in Dortmund, in Germany. And that game in November ended 3-2 to Barcelona. But there could have definitely been a few more goals. There was lots of big chances squandered. Guirassy had what he thought was the opener ruled out for offside just after half-time. That was Nuri Sahin's Dortmund. He has since been relieved of his duties with Niko Kovac coming in. Well, considering his appointment with Dortmund now in the quarters and on the back of a 3-1 win against Mainz and 4-1 in Freiburg, after 12 games under Kovac, probably started a little bit rocky, but it does feel like a positive step for the club. I think he's growing into his appointment and it is starting to look pretty shrewd. I think he'll be there next season and he'll make a pretty good fist of the job in Dortmund. It was a big victory over Lille in the round of 16 to rubber stamp their spot in the quarters. For me, if we're going to look at Sahin's Dortmund and Kovac's Dortmund, the main difference is the intent of moving the ball upfield. So Dortmund now, they want to progress the ball and that their aim is to be as aggressive as possible in possession. And that wasn't always the case under Sahin. It was more controlled and to dominate possession and move the ball. And that want to be progressive and get at their opponents, for me, might prove to be Barcelona's kryptonite. Now, I'm not saying that Dortmund will progress. I don't think they're going to win the game on a midweek, but I do feel that they can hurt Barcelona in possession. So Barcelona typically in La Liga, they're used to facing compact low blocks and they need to be patient, dominate possession and try and pick the lock. But we all know it. We've all seen it. That high line is susceptible against teams that are willing to turn the ball over, be brave, and show that kind of intent in possession. If you compare it to the Premier League, it was the same story for a long time against Manchester City for years, for seasons in the Premier League. It was obviously really difficult as you didn't want to hand Man City space to open you up. But if teams were brave enough in possession, City's defensive line often spent a lot of the game camped inside the opponent's half. Like, you could get at it, but you need to commit numbers and get that ball up the pitch and maneuver whatever press you're faced against. And it's similar for Barcelona. If you can work out with that press, if you can progress that ball upfield aggressively as quickly as possible, then that Barcelona high line is there to be got. And I think Barcelona have the players to do that in Adeyemi out wide, Guirassy up top. He'll keep pace with Adeyemi and get in the box. We saw that in the reverse head-to-head earlier on in the season. I think this plays out as Dortmund will try their best to contain Barcelona in the first leg and just wait for opportunities that arise where they can get forward and pick Barcelona off, because I think they will be afforded them. And Barcelona, it's pretty obvious, I suppose. We've all seen them play this season. They're exactly the same. Like, Hansi Flick's Barcelona is a little bit like a Swiss Army knife going forward. You've got overloads out wide with Balde bombing on from fullback. If they can't get a ball into Pedri and Gavi in the middle, then they can quite easily lump it in the space in behind the back four, because there's pace in abundance there to be direct and capitalise. They're dangerous with balls whipped in the box. You've got Lewandowski in the middle, who has 25 goals in 27 La Liga starts, 9 in 10 in the Champions League. So Flick has him firing too. And if you've got Yamal out wide, if he picks the ball up 20 yards from goal, he can score from anywhere. So, yeah, this Barcelona front line, it's almost impossible to defend. I would be amazed if they don't find the net midweek. I'll be shocked if they don't score 2 or more. in my opinion, I think Barcelona are probably too good for Dortmund, but that is represented in the price. They're 1.36 to win. Over 90 minutes, I think they'll be too much for Dortmund, but I am having that Dortmund will be afforded a chance or two on the counter in transition. So I wasn't sold on any of the main markets, so I've opted for Barcelona win and both teams to score at 2.40.
Yeah, plenty of attacking options for both teams in this match. 3 of the top 4 goal scorers in the Champions League this season are all in action in this tie here. Looking at the Betsy projections for the game, gone quite high as you'd expect. 3.47 expected goals total for this first leg match. Barcelona projected 2.39 with Borussia Dortmund at 1.08. But Betsy, big backers of Barcelona here. 79.4% chance of progression, according to our in-house projection model. 20.6 for Dortmund. Barcelona favourites with the bookies, but down at third favourites with Betsy. Betsy's given them a 19.5% chance of winning the tournament. PSG would touch upon it a little bit, are the big favourites with Betsy. Scott, Sam touched upon the high goal lines and the high defensive lines in this match. That's same sort of logic for your bet, if you want to bring that in now.
Yeah, so I'm backing over 2.5 goals. I'm with Sam, completely in agreement, but I'm combining it with over 2.5 offsides for Dortmund, and it's basically down to Hansi Flick's approach. It's been fascinating to watch, really exciting. Barcelona games are must watch. The passes per defensive action, which measures how intense the press is. They're the only team inside, I should say, Europe's top 5 leagues with a PBDA below 7.5, I should say, 6.79 PPDA. So they're just really aggressive in the press. They leave huge gaps behind the defensive line, and they're willing to play the offside trap. And the numbers are eye-watering, to be honest with you, in terms of offsides. In the Champions League, we'll stick to the goals for now, and then we'll move on to the offsides. But in the Champions League, Barcelona are the highest scoring team per game with 3.2 goals per game. Their matches see an average of 4.6 goals overall. Dortmund matches also see plenty of goals with an average of 3.5. That's in the Champions League. And as Sam touched upon it, 3-2 in the league phase fixture. So we should see plenty of chances here. Kovac, pretty impressive what he's been able to do. A mixed bag of results, but they've won the XG battle in 10 of their 12 games under the new coach. The XG is 1.4 higher than their opponents on average. So creating plenty of chances, but this is Barcelona. I do expect Dortmund to create chances, but they'll struggle to win the XG battle against a Barca side that just creates so much. You've got Rafinha, Yamal, who look unplayable at times, and Lewandowski, rolling back the years a little bit. People questioned whether he had a future at Barcelona with his form under Xavi last season, but he certainly looks like he could be a key player for the next couple of years. And that relationship with Flick really does help. So goals definitely on the agenda. And in terms of offsides, the numbers are really ridiculous. Barcelona are forcing an average of 6 offsides per game in the Champions League. So if you just wanted to take it as a higher line, this 5.5 is around 3-1 last I checked. So it's well worth backing. They're just so willing to be risky and commit to that press. And they've got the pace to recover, but obviously that offside flag does go up quite a lot nowadays. All 3 or more offsides for the opposition in 9 of Barcelona's 10 Champions League games so far. So not quite all, but pretty close. And I say the reverse fixture, but it was the league phase meeting. Dortmund had 6 offsides in that one. So again, I don't see any reason why over 2.5 shouldn't land here. This is more a play on Barcelona, so Dortmund's numbers aren't massively important, but they did have 3 in the away leg against Lille in the last round. But just due to Barcelona's high line here, I think we're probably looking at more like 4, 5, 6. But to be safe, we'll get the goals and we'll get the over 2.5 offsides at 1.8. And I'm happy with that as a double.
Yeah, both of you going down a similar sort of route with your bet, but coming to different conclusions. Now, my memory is good enough to go back about a month. And we were in a fairly similar situation with Benfica versus Barcelona in the round of 16. If we remember, the two sides played each other previously in this season's tournament, something we've seen quite a lot in the Champions League given the new format. Obviously, Benfica and Barcelona, when they played each other in January in the playoff, finished 5-4 on in the was it match day 7, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Finished 5-4 and then come up against each other in the round of 16. We were expecting a goal fest, and Benfica finished Benfica 0, Barcelona 1 is there any fear here that given the stage of the competition where we are, as Daniele touched upon at the start, we do often see these goal lines go way under, especially in the first legs. Teams just want to maybe keep it quite tight. Dortmund, if they want to progress, they can't go into their second leg 3 goals behind, 4 goals behind, can they? It's in Dortmund's interest to set up quite defensively, maybe take a 1-0, take a 2-0 back to Germany in the second leg, and maybe progress from there. Is there any fear, Sam and Scott, that the game just gets shut down a little bit and we don't see this expected goal total of 3.5 or 4, whatever it is?
A nice early goal would completely kill that possibility. So that's ideal situation. But I think the best way to get at this Barcelona team is to take advantage of their defensive shortcomings. Benfica are not, the plan didn't work. They're out of the competition. Dortmund do have a lot more about them than Benfica as well. They're a better team. So I do think it's a concern, but I do think we'll see overs here in the fact that Dortmund have got the pace and they've got the quality to just hurt Barcelona, get behind that line, and they're just a better team than Benfica. And ultimately, Benfica's approach didn't work.
But since Kovac has taken over at Borussia Dortmund, there have been 9 over 2.5 goals in all competition. I don't think they're quite set up to defend, to be honest. Last season they were. They could endure extremely a lot of pressure. I mean, the semi-final against PSG, they were also lucky, but they were more set up to defend, maybe the likes of Hummels or the players that were actually there and do that job. I don't think they are. They lost a little bit of the pedigree. They will reel in chaos, I think. But I think if it's a chaotic game, that's where Borussia Dortmund can actually have a chance. Barcelona are worthy leaders of La Liga. I do think sometimes they have a soft belly, though. They are still a team that is quite inexperienced, and they can concede cheap goals and they can let themselves into that chaotic game with no real owner. So that could be the chance, but I do think it's going to be a high one.
Over 2.5 goals has landed in all of Barcelona's Champions League home games of the past 2 seasons. So says a lot about the approach, really. I know, obviously, managerial change in the summer, but Barcelona do look to get the job done at the Camp Nou. They've lost one of those games, 4-1 to PSG. PSG really taking advantage and being able to carve them open. The red card happened in that game as well, which helped. I just think that's the way to get at Barcelona. You've got to try and make them pay for any little error. And that's Dortmund's approach. It's got to be.
I can see why you don't like hosting, Sam. You just make a point sometimes, and then everyone on the panel articulately disagrees with it. Such aggression. It's not fun. It's not fun. Anyway,
we've got the chance to look like a hero now, though, haven't you? If it ends 1-0, then
exactly fun. Yeah,
come out smelling the roses. So
yeah. We'll see on Thursday. Looking at Barcelona versus Dortmund, the first leg of this Champions League quarter-final tie. Sam Ingram has gone for Barca to win and both teams to score at 2.40. He's gone for half a unit on that. And Scott Thornton is going for over 2.5 goals and over 2.5 assists for Dortmund. That's a 1.80 with a full unit on that. Before we get to Arsenal versus Real Madrid, let's quickly touch upon the fourth match, the fourth quarterfinal, the one we're not actually going to be betting on, which is going to be PSG against Aston Villa. So let me just pull up the bets projections for this first leg. 1.94 projected goals for the French champions, 0.86 for Aston Villa as they head to France. Goal total is 2.81. As previously mentioned, Betsy really, really likes PSG at the moment, giving them a 77.8% chance of progressing to the next stage. Aston Villa at 22.2. Betsy also fancies PSG to win the whole thing. 28.3% chance of lifting the competition for the first time in the club's history. Just going to open this to the entire panel. What do you think of PSG winning the trophy? Betsy's big pick is for them to go all the way. And looking at this tie specifically, do you think Aston Villa have any chance of getting past PSG, given the form they're in at the moment?
I give Aston Villa some hope, I'll be honest. I think PSG probably the best team in the competition at the moment, certainly the performance against Liverpool. We went into that tie thinking, right, Liverpool are the best team in Europe. So the manner of the victory does make you think the PSG have got what it takes. But Villa are no slouches and they're playing some good stuff. Villa, they really moved themselves into top 4 contention again now. And Emery's a bit of a tactician in these sort of ties, and he's really got the know-how. And former club as well. Former club PSG is quite a nice narrative if you're into that type of thing. I just think PSG will have too much, but it's not as one-sided as you may be led to believe. I think Villa are capable. They're capable of beating anybody in the competition, really, which is testament to how strong the Premier League is, considering, you know, Villa haven't played the Champions League since 1983, the European Cup back then. So the fact they've got a real chance. They've got a real chance, but it's hard to disagree that PSG deserve their favourites tag.
I think PSG could be the worst enemies once again, but this time they come from an underdog position to being unlikely favourites. But they made Liverpool look very average in both games. Maybe at Anfield, yes, Donnarumma played a bit of a part, but overall, it was almost payback time for PSG from how unlucky they were last season against Borussia Dortmund, with those 6 times they hit the woodwork. And I think there is a bit of a gap between and Aston Villa. Aston Villa have been a good revelations, a very good season, first season. The first time they reached the quarterfinals of the major European competition since 1983. And yeah, remarkable. But away from home, even in that game of Bruges, yes, they won, but a game of low chances. And I don't really see them being able to go to the Parc des Princes and actually get a win here. And PSG will play exactly as they did in the first leg, no matter of the results. They go to Villa Park and they will continue attack as they did against Liverpool. I mean, Dembele is in the form of his life, but when you have Kvaratskhelia, he makes him a better player as well, plus the other options that we touched upon a few podcasts ago as well, all the attacking options. Having won the league, I mean, it was never going to be in doubt, but having already won the league, I think is a big boost for PSG because they can rest players, they can focus on this sort of games. They know that the next game is not that important, and when the ties are played only 7 days apart from each other in the Champions League, I think is a big. It's a big boost. Okay, Aston Villa goes to Southampton at the weekend, which are already relegated. But Aston Villa needs to win, really, in order to have a chance, or needs to get results in the first leg in order to have a chance. But yeah, talking about Aston Villa, in 2025, fourth for points total in the Premier League, probably the more changed team from one half of the season to the other. The acquisitions, of course, of players have made a difference. When you have Donny Malen and he's not even in your Champions League squad, you're doing something right, I think. That means you got a strong squad. But for me, PSG far superior at the moment, and Luis Enrique's work is come to the fore. I'll say PSG has an handicap -1.
I've just seen another little angle that I would kind of like in this game as well, to be honest. I haven't gone through the full numbers, but offsides against Emery's team have been pretty solid since he came in. They've dropped a little bit this season, but they're still good. And over 2.5 offsides for PSG is 2.25 on Bet365. It's quite appealing. PSG caught offside 3 times against Liverpool in the last round when they played the Parc des Princes. So that's quite a nice price there.
I'm really intrigued by this game. Some Villa fans will disagree, probably Birmingham fans too. But this is maybe the Premier League's 5th best team ish. It's not going to win you a Premier League title, but it's right up there. So interesting to see how that will match up against Europe's best right now. PSG probably the best team in Europe for me anyway. Obviously just dislodged Liverpool, who were going great guns. Villa are on a tear at the minute as well. 8 wins from 8? So 7 from 7?
7 from 7.
7 from 7. So they couldn't be in better form. Villa Park will be deafening in the second leg, packed to the rafters, full voice, proper European night at one of England's most historic grounds. But yeah, unfortunately for Villa, it's PSG next. Fresh from winning the title, playing some unbelievable football. And PSG will be confident that they can win the Champions League this time around. I'm pretty sure 4.33 second favourites behind Barca. Daniele's touched upon it, but Dembele's turned into R9, Doué, Kvaratskhelia, Barcola, Ramos, Hakimi on the flank. Like, there's so much to get excited about if you're a PSG fan. There's a lot there to make Villa fans very nervous as well. And I would be surprised if PSG don't win this, especially in France. But Villa can hurt them. It's the kind of game where maybe like Rashford might step up and be counted. I could see that happening, and I didn't really think I'd be saying that ahead of a Champions League quarter final a few months ago. But the one thing, and Scott's touched upon it, the one thing Villa do have on the side is Unai Emery. If anyone can devise a game plan at this stage in Europe, then it's definitely him to extract some kind of positive result. But I think that will be extremely difficult, too difficult ultimately in Paris, I think. How do you bet on it? PSG minus 1.25 Asian. Maybe that's the line at the minute. Maybe that'll romp home 1.40 for the straight win. It's not really something I can get involved in as a single, but that might be good to maybe pair up with another strong midweek fancy, because I do really like the thought of PSG winning. The goal line at 3.0, first leg of a quarterfinal. Again, maybe a little bit off-putting, but I wouldn't be surprised if PSG scored 3 themselves. This is going to be really interesting. I'm just a bit annoyed that it's on at the same time as Barcelona Dortmund. Why can't they stagger that? Like, they've done it. You know, they do it. They do it for the league phases. Why not have one at 6 and one at 8 o'clock?
Yeah,
they don't impact each other.
No,
Does
no,
my head in that.
that's a good point. Yeah, I think this has always been a sticking point. Comes to the quarterfinals, they play them all together.
and
Makes no sense.
Do the 2 semis at the same time usually as well, same day.
No, one day after each other at least.
It was they were both the same time last year, I think.
No, one on Tuesday, one on Wednesday. The semis.
Really?
Definitely on different days. Yeah. Definitely different. Now semis are different days, but yes, quarterfinals is like Sam said. You don't have the.
It's a bit daft, isn't it? Like, you know, you're forcing people to pick between 2 of the biggest games of the season. I know you can have 2 on, you know, 2 different screens, but it's not the same. I want to be fully invested in something.
Yeah, 6 hours of football sounds a lot better than, you know, talking to people. No.
Oh, you're right. I did watch all 4 semis last year. I'm sure they did that a couple of years ago. They were playing them on the same day.
It's a long time ago, to be fair, Dan.
Oh man,
You've just said your memory lasts a month. To be fair,
yeah.
Was that this episode? Anyway, this can probably be cut. Let's move on. Let's move on to probably on paper the most intriguing match of the 4. I think, especially for our listeners, being largely in the UK, Arsenal versus Real Madrid. Now, I feel like we could probably spend about 45 minutes talking about this match, considering we've got 3 tips and a sort of head-to-head to go over. So just to spoil it a little bit, the head-to-head is going to be on the goal line. So, Scott, do you want to kick us off with this match? And then we'll go into Sam, and then finally we go into Daniele as well. So over to you, Scott.
Yeah, we've got a lot to get into, so I'll try and keep it strictly about the data. I think we've got 2 really nice football teams on the ball. Nothing's wasted in the modern day, where we used to see teams hoof it out for throw-ins and they reset the defensive shape. Now you see a lot of kicking into the channels, and obviously there's been a study or data collected on that, and that's the best thing to do because every team is doing it. And I think the throw numbers will just dwindle as a result. And while I think we'll see goals in this game, we're back in under 25.5 shots. They're not necessarily exclusive. So I think we'll see unders with just 2 very good teams in possession, feeling each other out, but there's enough quality on the pitch to grab the goal. So that my double is under 33.5 throws and under 25.5 shots in the match at 1.86. Real Madrid throws are in the Champions League. There's been an average of 27.83, which is the 5th fewest in the competition. They've obviously played 2 away knockout games at the moment because of the extra round against City. There were 28 throws at the Etihad and 23 throws in their away leg against Atletico Madrid, so well below the 33.5. Arsenal Champions League matches see the 7th fewest throws in the competition with 29.67, 22 versus PSV in their home leg in the last knockout round, so the only knockout round Arsenal have played in. Shots have also dwindled in Arsenal's Champions League games, 22.8, the 5th fewest in the competition, so very, very low. Real Madrid, a little bit concerned on that number, 28.17 shots on average. But Real were quite open through that league phase, and it's sort of changed in Atletico Madrid clash, and I think that's more of a similar match here. They were 19 in both of those clashes, and they obviously have the strength of field in the derby, whereas this will be very meticulous display from both teams. I think it'll be all about playing percentages and really getting into the best areas, less pop shots and speculative play, and just trying to shackle the opposition's strengths, really. And Mbappe, obviously, Arsenal can't afford to give him the space. He's probably the one that is a bit of a maverick that would be more willing to test the keeper from distance. But Arsenal will try and tie him up a little bit.
Yeah. Sam, over to you. You're looking not at the goal line, but you're looking at goals. So try and stay clear of the goal line if you possibly can.
Yeah, I'll find this a really tough game to bet on. I've tied myself up in knots around it. I had a few different bets lined up, and I've ended on both teams to score at 1.90. I'm not super confident in it. I could see this ending low scoring. I could see this ending high scoring, which that's not helpful. One thing that is helpful for Arsenal is Bukayo Saka back for Arsenal. Huge, so influential in forward areas. Arsenal really, if he can start the game, they just need to keep giving the ball to Saka on the right. Hope he can conjure up a piece of magic or two. If Arsenal get a positive result at the Emirates here, I'm certain it'll be because Saka was impactful when it really mattered. So both teams to score at 1.90. The more I thought about it, if that does happen and we're at 1-1, do I expect Arsenal to score 2 on Tuesday? I'm not so sure, maybe, but with their current options up top, maybe not. So then I started to veer towards Real Madrid on the handicap. So I think Real Madrid will score against Arsenal's current backline. That suggests that, the handicap might be the way to go. It also gets 0-0 on side if playing the handicap. And if this plays out like many people might think, cagey before anything else, maybe we don't see too many goals and you get that 0-0 on side. Or, 1-0 Real Madrid. There's also a line of thinking that maybe Saka will be ineffective. He's been out for a long time. To expect him to pop up here in a Champions League quarter-final against Real Madrid and have a game-changing impact, it is asking a lot. Will Mikel Merino start as centre-forward up against Rudiger in the middle? Maybe. But Real Madrid have their defensive issues too. Vasquez, Rudiger, Tchouameni and Garcia started in a back four in their 2-1 defeat to Valencia on the weekend. They are there to be got at, but so is Arsenal's defence. Saliba and Kiwior in the middle, I think is going to start the game. Gabriel, it goes without saying really, but he's such a big loss. He's the voice back there, the presence others will be looking to when things get tough. He's the type of player you want by your side going into a quarter-final. He is what Rudiger is to Real Madrid. And all of the above just made this a really difficult game for me to predict in terms of result. And as always, in these kind of positions, Real Madrid will be thrilled with a first leg draw. I say it all the time, and they'll be okay with a 1-goal deficit. It's not the worst result in the world if they were to lose 1-0, 2-1. I've veered away from a result or a handicap, and I've ended up with both teams to score. I'm mindful I've gone around the houses a bit in the build-up to this one, but it has landed in 7 of 8 recent Real Madrid games in all competitions. It's a good price, 1.90, and ultimately the thing that swayed it for me is I can see both defences really being tested. And there has to be question marks around both. There is question marks around Arsenal and forward areas, but I think at the Emirates, the crowd there, the set piece threat, the likely dominating possession and the constant waves of attack, Arsenal have to score as well here. They cannot go to Real Madrid having not scored in the first leg because they won't win the game. They won't progress if they don't score here. And on the counter against Lewis Skelly, Jakub Kiwior, Saliba without Gabriel, Real Madrid, how do they not score here? Like, how do they go to the Emirates and not score? We know what they've got up top there. Mbappe, Vinicius, like they can change a game in an instant. I just can't see how they don't score. So put all that together, moving away from a result because that could swing either way at this stage of the competition. We know that. Both teams to score 1.9.
Yeah, such an interesting match on paper. Betsy projections for this game give Arsenal 1.59 goals, 1.32 to Real Madrid, expected goals total of 2.91, so a lot higher than the bookies are going at the moment. Looking at the chances of progression, Betsy is siding with Real Madrid, giving them a 55.6% chance of progressing to Arsenal's 44.4%, so the closest of the 4 quarterfinals, according to our in-house projection model. Daniele, you won the inaugural man versus man head-to-head Royal Rumble, Hell in a Cell, whatever you want to call it, battle with Sam a couple of weeks ago. Sam ducked the rematch, and is instead
scared.
It's fallen to Scott. So, as a defending champ, do you wanna take first pick at the Asian goal line before we give it over to Scott for a little challenge?
For me, Dan, as I said earlier, there are some under 2.5 goals in this tie. And if I look at this game, I think it smells a low-scoring game. I know that there is a lot of firepower in this play, and Madrid are certainly better going forward than defending. But at this moment in time, Real Madrid are quite hurt, and they come on the back of 4 very disappointing home games, where they lost against Valencia, drew against Real Sociedad. Yes, they were high-scoring games against oppositions that perhaps didn't expect to find so much space, but also, on the other hand, against opposition that are not quite good at defending. Now they come against an Arsenal side that is very good at pressing, but also holding the line, and whose strength lies really into the positional defending and the organization. Arsenal are in the top 5 leagues, the third best defense for expected goals against. A figure that is below 0.86, and when they play at home, it's below 0.73. And I think that's what Arsenal really are about. Okay, they are without Gabriel, but this is a team that lacking a clear goal scorer, a number 9, a poacher, however you want to call it, are very good at shutting oppositions down. And I think last year experience would have really helped Arteta and his men. That 2-2 against Bayern at home, that's what basically knocked them out, because Arsenal weren't quite tight and quite focused, especially playing with the high line and conceding a few chances with long balls. I don't think they're going to make the same mistakes. Of course, the personnel up front for Real Madrid is scary. But this is a Real Madrid side, as I repeat, that on Sunday could have lost La Liga had Betis not drawn against Barcelona. And the season is quickly slipping away from them. Yes, we got Mbappe scoring 16 goals in the last 10 and all the nice records and Vinicius, etc. But this is a team, Real Madrid, that could well end up winning nothing this season, having bought and got the most expensive, most valuable player in the world, which I think will be a disappointment. Flip it the other side and look at Arsenal and the acquisitions they made, the way they strengthened the team, the strategical approach to this. And for me, Arsenal got many more chances to qualify rather than Real Madrid. Hence, I go back to my previous theory. If it's a high-scoring game, Arsenal doesn't outscore Real Madrid. If there are 5 goals in the game, maybe Arsenal doesn't score it. But if it's a tight game, as it could be, Arsenal could win it and could then go on to the Bernabeu and do what they know to do best, which doesn't mean parking a bus, pressing intelligently, but also being able to shut down shop when it's needed. For me, it's an under 2.25 goals. I think this is probably the under that is hidden in all the 4, apart from Bayern Inter, of course. This is where I think is both to score no potentially. Yeah, I like the 1-1 option, but yeah, under 2.25 goals, good value, 195.
I'll do the deciding vote on this. I will say just before I give it over to you, Scott, I was leaning slightly towards the unders on this game. I thought no on BTTS would probably be the best way in, probably under 2.5 goals. But no, I'm open to be swayed. I'm going to try and remain as impartial as possible. So, Scott, why do you think this game is going to go over 2.25 goals?
That was a compelling case, to be honest, but I'm still happy to stick by overs. I think the fact it's the Asian line gives us a bit of security as well with a half loss if it was just the 2 goals. I do like the look of both teams to score here. The weaknesses defensively that Sam has touched upon are massive. There's so much talent on the pitch, and Saka surely will start after he's come back and he made the instant impact. That there is space to be attacked and there's weaknesses there to exploit. Arsenal can't really be looking at a draw going to the Bernabeu. We know what Real are all about in the Champions League, and I think we've all got this view of Real Madrid that they're just so magical in this competition because it's true. But this Real Madrid team are struggling at the moment. They've failed to keep a clean sheet in any of their last 8 matches across all competitions. Over 2.5 goals landed in 7 of those matches. And those games have seen an average of 3.5 goals. So it says a lot about the defensive output of Real. They're conceding 2 at home to Leganes just a few weeks ago. Were embroiled in a relegation battle in La Liga. And then one of the more interesting points for me is Arsenal, obviously, I think average odds currently are on 2.35 on the 1x2 market. Arsenal don't go off at this price at home very often at all, as you'd imagine. This season, this happened just once, predictably, against Liverpool. That was back in October. The score finished 2-2. Arsenal were average odds of 2.27 on that occasion. We're talking about two very, very talented teams here going toe-to-toe. And when this happens in a big game, that's all it takes is that goal in the first half an hour. If Real score in the first 30 minutes, then the floodgates are well and truly open. And there's just too much talent in that Real line for me to be betting against a goal in the first 35, 40 minutes. And then a trend that I hadn't really considered, but Real are scoring the most goals late on in the Champions League this season as well. Atleti very much held that crown in La Liga, but Real are the ones who are chipping away and getting all the goals late on. In the last 15 minutes plus injury time, they're averaging over 0.65 goals per game in the Champions League. So this bet wouldn't be dead and buried if we're looking at 1-0 going into the last 20 minutes, because especially if it's Real with the goal or 1-0 up, because Arsenal will need to come out and Real have that pace that can hurt them on the break. But the big factor for me being that similar odds games where Arsenal are around 2.37, that doesn't happen at home very often. 2-2 earlier in the season. It's happened in 3 away games since. Chelsea away, 1-1, so just below. Sporting is the only one in the Champions League though, and Arsenal won 5-1. But they've got a home advantage this time. I think Arsenal will get on the score sheet. Real get on the score sheet, and then that last 20 minutes or so will take us over the line.
I think when we look at the brilliance in the teams, and I do agree with you, of course the firepower up front, but let's not forget the goalkeepers sometimes. I think sometimes in our analysis, we tend to forget how good goalkeepers are. Courtois is an amazing goalkeeper. Raya has prevented over 3.44 post-shot expected goals, which means the goals he could have let in, an average goalkeeper could have let in. Then you go Saliba on one side, Rudiger on the other side, the likes of Chouameni, Camavinga, Declan Rice. These are all players that excel in defensive position, of course, apart from the goalkeeper. Earlier in the season, Real Madrid went to Liverpool, lost 2-0, missed a penalty. There was no Rodrigo, no Vinicius in that game. But ultimately, they did suffer the press and the intensity and the high rhythm. Looking back at that game, apart from the change in personnel, has Real Madrid actually improved since that game? They seem to me very inconsistent and very a team that goes with emotions. Again, in a crazy game, Real Madrid will probably beat you 5-4. But in a controlled game, I think it will be difficult for them to break Arsenal down. And bearing in mind also, I think the credit with Lady Luck, it's over for Real Madrid after what we've seen against Atletico Madrid. I mean, they didn't deserve to qualify ultimately. Atletico Madrid were a better side, and finally we've seen a team also taking the ball into Real Madrid opposition, into Real Madrid half. Atletico Madrid were dominating the ball. And I think Arsenal more than capable, man to man, to do what Atletico Madrid has done. And they've shown enough dog defense and enough spirit for me to believe they could keep Real Madrid at bay here.
I agree from like a technical standpoint. I do completely agree. But Real Madrid have just got so much Champions League experience. Arsenal don't. And so I'm trying to pick out like similar matches. Like last season, I really thought Arsenal could get the better of Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich obviously were in a very bad position last season. They were managerless really. They had Tuchel in charge, but that search for a new manager continued on for months and months while he was still there. And Arsenal really, that was there for the taking. So this time last year, I think it was the 9th of April last year, Arsenal hosted Bayern Munich. And I view this as quite a similar match. Real Madrid not quite in the same level of crisis as Bayern were at the time, because obviously a few month long search for a manager is never ideal. But that game finished 2-2. And I think Bayern, in terms of pedigree, they don't have the same level of pedigree as Real Madrid, but they certainly are up there with the elites of Europe. And I think this game plays out similarly to that.
Year on year, Arsenal have improved. They finished third in the league. And Real Madrid, look where Real Madrid finished 18th. Okay, it doesn't really count at the end. If they reach the final, it's fine. But I think those knockout ties, eliminated Porto, I think they've taught Arsenal a lesson or two in how to approach this sort of games.
I don't think Arsenal have beaten any of the true royalties of European football. I know they beat PSG in the league phase, but they don't come under that category for me. Obviously, they're aiming to get there, but Arsenal, as good as they are, they haven't earned the seat of that top table yet with the likes of Bayern Munich, Real Madrid. I just think they're good enough to get on the score sheet.
Arsenal aren't watertight. Like, we look at them and think, yeah, brilliant defense. That centre back pairing, unbelievable. Gabriel and Saliba. Obviously, Gabriel's missing, but just looking through the stats there, they've conceded a goal in 15 of 20 games in 2025. Their 13 games they've played this calendar year, they've conceded 10. At home, they've conceded 6 goals in the last 6 games. Teams are scoring against them, and now they face one of the best teams we've ever seen in this competition, maybe one of the best front lines in world football, against a back line that is all over the shop, really. I touched on it earlier. Jakub Kiwior in the middle. Lewis Skelly's got to be question marks over at left back. He's a central midfielder. He's never played in the quarterfinal of a competition this big. It's his first time playing Champions League football? Look, he's brilliant. Yeah, he's filling in really well at left back, but it's up against Real Madrid now. There has to be question marks over him. Ben White was a doubt for the weekend. He's back now. How fit is he? Is he 100%, or is he playing because he needs to play? Look, there are enough question marks to suggest Real Madrid could score 1 goal. And it's the same. It works the same the other way, though. It's the same for the Real Madrid back line. I think Arsenal will score. I'd be really nervous if I was on unders. I think that's what sways me towards overs, because I just, we've seen it with Real Madrid so many times.
The thing that it is pulling me away from over on goals is I don't think Arsenal will score at all. Like you said, you fancy Madrid to get when Arsenal will score. I don't think they will. I know Madrid haven't kept a clean sheet in all competitions since the middle of February. They've got their own defensive problems. After the game on the weekend against Valencia, Ancelotti said, it's misquoted in Spanish probably, but he said something like, "We will be setting up differently on the weekend. In midweek, Arsenal will play differently. They'll try and attack." And I've watched Arsenal play a lot of games this year against teams that sort of sit back a little bit and give Arsenal the ball and let them try to break them down. All right, Bukayo Saka hasn't been playing. I watched him on the weekend. He's not there. He's not fit. He can't, at the moment, given the way his injury is, he can't run on his right side. So because if he runs on his right side and crosses on his right side, he will probably tear his hamstring again because it's not fully healed clearly. So he's limited. Apparently, Alaba might be playing as well for Madrid down at left back, which would be quite interesting. I just, at the moment, I'm not seeing where the goals are going to come from for Arsenal. Obviously, Martin Odegaard, creative spark against his former club, been in dreadful form this season. Martinelli looks pretty good at the moment, but is he going to get chances?
If Arsenal don't score here, this season's effectively over.
Yeah,
I think they're just going to roll the dice. They're going to have to at some stage. They need to go to the Bernabeu with something to defend. Okay, they haven't been the most free scoring, but just Saka's presence there gives them something. They're a well-oiled machine, and they need a goal against a Real Madrid side that we're so convinced are magic, but they're very, very ordinary at the back. If they do win the Champions League this season, there will be more luck along the way. I don't think they've used up all their luck. Real Madrid will never run out of luck in the Champions League. So I just don't see them as this outfit that can keep Arsenal at bay, to be honest.
Would you prefer, Dan, to go on their Asian handicap rather than backing goals? Real Madrid Asian handicap.
What is the entire topic of the debate that we just had for the past? Question of the debate.
If you don't, obviously, as an Arsenal fan, you watch much more Arsenal than I do. You don't think they're going to score? Would you be backing Real Madrid then? It's a big price.
It's a big price, yeah. Oh yeah, I'd much prefer that. For me personally, not as a topic of the debate, but just for me personally, yeah, I would be definitely on that. Daniele, bringing you back in, the thing that's putting me away from siding with you in this debate is that I don't think Arsenal are going to score. In which case, I don't know where the goals are going to come from. Madrid could score 2 or 3, obviously, but do you think we need Arsenal to score to see this over 2.25 goal line breached? Madrid aren't going to be set up to try and win 5-0 at it because they got the second leg to do that.
No, I don't think you need Arsenal to. I mean, I'm siding with the under 2.25 goals.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, 1 goal will do. You need Arsenal to score. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, let's go back to the question. Yeah, of course. To get the over 2.25 goals, I think you need Arsenal to score a goal. But I do believe Arsenal can actually score. I don't know. I got these feelings. Madrid are really, really gettable at this moment, and against an organized side as Arsenal, they know where to attack, know how to control the tempo. They could suffer as they did against Atletico Madrid. So yeah,
So
that's the idea behind it.
Daniele
Daniele,
thinks
you like
Arsenal goes
both
through.
teams. Yeah, but you like both teams to score. No, but you
No,
think
it could be
Arsenal are going
1-1.
to score.
It could be 1-1. It could well be 1-1.
It could be 1-1.
I think 1-1 is
Could be 1-0.
perfect. It could be 1-1. It's perfect. We all win. But I don't really see a high scoring side here. I just don't think. I don't think a team is gonna score more than 2 goals. And
I'm going to be straight in that group chat when there's a goal in the first 25 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, before the game, we are all. Well, this is a difficult one too.
This is what the Champions League is all about. It's a great
If it was
tie
over
that really
2.5
could go.
goals, would you have taken it if it was over 2.5 goals or under 2.5 goals?
But the 2.25 makes it so much more appealing as an Asian handicap. I think gives you a little bit of a safety net, and the possibility of that early goal just completely ripping it up. There could be 4 goals in this game. The most similar match I could find the 2 similar matches, let's say, Arsenal played Liverpool earlier in the season, and factually it was their most similar match of this campaign because they were very close price on the 1x2 market at home with 2-2, and they faced Bayern Munich, who are also European royalty in this fixture last season effectively, and drew 2-2 again. So I think there could be
last
goals
season
there.
though, in that 3-3 between Real Madrid and Manchester City, 6 goals, there were only less 2.15 xg overall. So again, I think it all goes into this discussion. We could go on forever like this, but I don't know. I just sometimes I'm a little bit skeptical on the logic. Brilliant teams, brilliant attackers, plenty of goals. Brilliant teams, brilliant managers, brilliant defenses, brilliant goalkeepers. They can do the job as much as the attackers can do. And I think Arsenal playing at home are a stronger defensive side, and I think they do rely on not getting goals in. That what they've been all about.
What I've taken from this debate is that Daniele really wants Real Madrid to go out to the Champions League for Arsenal.
No. I don't want them to go out. No, why? Why would I want them to go out? No, I mean.
I think the Julian Alvarez incident, and you've seen about the.
Oh yeah, I
yeah.
think it's cruel. I think it's cruel, and I think. Yeah, but unfortunately, it doesn't work like this. Otherwise, Bayern would not have won 10 of the last 11 Bundesliga titles, and there would be many other histories. But no, I don't want them to go out. As long as we don't have Barcelona, Real Madrid as a Champions League final, then I think that's fine.
You don't want that. You don't want that.
No, I would hate it because I hate same nation finals. It's one of the things I really don't like. But yeah.
We're getting off topic a little bit here. Let's bring it back.
Yeah, slightly.
Looking at the head-to-head, the discussion was under 2.25 for Daniele, over 2.25 for Scott. I was originally leaning unders, but given the way the debate has gone, I think I probably will side with Scott here. I'm going to back the challenger. When you talked about last season's quarterfinals, Scott and Sam as well, talked about that Bayern game, and I was just getting flashbacks to Jakub Kiwior losing the ball, letting Leroy Sané run past him, and I'm thinking about what he's going to be coming up against on Tuesday night. And Arsenal aren't keeping a clean sheet here, are they? And given Real's recent defensive problems, if they're not keeping a clean sheet either, are they? I don't think Arsenal will score, but I think Madrid will concede. Is how I'm feeling about the match at the moment.
Let's score an own goal.
So go on. I'll side with the challenger, Scott, and maybe we'll finish 1-1. Maybe we'll all walk away happy with contested points and a rematch to come in Vegas or Saudi or something. So Arsenal versus Real Madrid. We're going for 3 bets. Scott, as the winner of the head-to-head, is going for over 2.25 goals in the Asian goal line. That's what's that? It's got 1.97.
Yeah, 1.95 at the moment.
1.95. Yeah. 1.95. Your actual single bet is under 33.5 throws in the match and under 25.5 shots in the match, 1.86. Sam, you're going for both teams to score at 1.90 with full unit on that. Good stuff. Right. I don't know how we got so much out of 4 matches, but can we recap the singles, please? Sam, starting with you.
Yes, I'm going for Barca v Dortmund. Barca win, both teams to score at 2.40 at half a unit, and both teams to score Arsenal v Real Madrid at 1.90 for a unit.
And Daniele?
I'm going to go for Bayern Munich against Inter under 2.5 goals at 199 and Arsenal Real Madrid under 2.25 goals at line 195.
Scott?
We're going Barcelona versus Dortmund, over 2.5 goals and over 2.5 offsides for Dortmund. The goals in the match, obviously. 1.8, 1 unit. And then Arsenal versus Real Madrid, under 33.5 throws in the match and under 25.5 shots in the match at 1.86. But I think 3 of those shots will go in at least.
Good stuff. If you are going to be using any of the tips from today's show, then please gamble responsibly. Only betting what you can afford to lose. Scott, thank you very much to Scott Thornton.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniele Fiscalo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam Ingram.
Thank you.
And thank you from me. We'll be back on Thursday.